Welcome, fellow last placers, to another episode of LPF Debrief, where we discuss movies, TV shows, sometimes anime, and all that other good stuff that you guys love. What about that one, Chris?
That was good. That was
That was
better
a
than
good one,
that
right?
was better than
Compared
yesterday.
to that was good. That was good. All right, like I said in the earlier, did we just talk about a bunch of random stuff that we watch, things like that. We also start off every episode by doing the same thing, shaming Yendi for not watching the content that we do. So, shame.
Shame.
Today's episode, we are talking about Shang-Chi and the Legends of the Ten Rings, which I can tell you now, Chris and I were both excited for this. Shang-Chi is like, if you guys know me, Kung Fu is one of my favorite things. I will seek out Kung Fu movies. And now you're adding that to one of my favorite universes, which is why in the comics, Shang-Chi is one of my favorites. So is Iron Fist, but we won't talk about Iron Fist today. We're only going to talk about Shang-Chi. So, Chris, what was your first impressions of this movie? And I already know what it is, but
Oh man. I love this movie. I said leading up to this movie that this would probably become my favorite Marvel film. My
Mhm.
favorite Marvel movie is Guardians. And this is excluding like the Avengers movies because the Avengers movies are already like I feel like they're on a
Yeah,
separate list compared to like
they
the
are. They are
individual.
a list we
So
will do sometime
yeah,
soon.
yeah. So Guardians was held high for me, but this one definitely took over. I am actually gonna look into getting the Shang-Chi comics.
Mm,
I feel like I finally got a um like I actually have a favorite character because I used to just like Spider-Man a lot, but Spider-Man's there. But like having somebody outside of something like this, I really enjoyed the movie. It was awesome.
yeah. It would, like I said, yes, I agree with everything you said there. Shang-Chi, like in the comic books, is one of my favorite characters because, like I said, Kung Fu is just one of the things that growing up I've just loved. And then you took Shang-Chi basically is the master of Kung Fu, and that's the name of his comic was the Master of Kung Fu. So he basically knows all fighting styles in the comic books, and seeing stuff like that was always my favorite. So that's why I always gravitated towards those grounded characters who do stuff like that. So Daredevils and even Cap shows like some level of martial arts, but like Iron Fist, all of them. As far as the movie goes, this was. I mean, I would be nitpicking to find something I disliked about this movie because everything to me was good. It flowed perfectly. I thought it was hilarious. It was the humor in it was perfect.
Oh
Everyone,
man.
yeah, everyone in the movie to me just did a perfect role. Like Aquafina, she was fantastic. Like, which is Katie in the movie. She was so good. Like, just her relationship and the chemistry between them both was so good. It was
Her
hilarious.
posture too, like her
Yeah,
holding onto the character, she had like a
yeah.
I don't know if that's her natural stance. I don't think it is,
Mhm.
but her posture is just kind of like I'm here. Like she kind of gave that presence of like, yeah, I'm not into this world at all. I'm just kind of on the
Yeah, I'm
side
just
here.
here.
She just kind of like,
Yeah.
so,
Like she did everything to make her
yeah.
character funny. I mean, even from oh, by the way, spoilers. I didn't say that in the
Oh
beginning,
yeah,
but now you guys know. But before we get into the plot anyway,
yeah.
so she so like just like when she was like, oh, when they were about to start off like with the valet parking, and she's like, please, like, trust me, I'm gonna drive slow, and then literally it cuts to the scene where she's
Oh
like
man.
drifting down for San Francisco. It's like, I mean, so her character, she was a great comic relief for this movie because this movie did have some serious tones to it too, and the balance that Marvel does, I have always enjoyed. I feel like we get enough serious to where we're like engaged in the story, but the comedy is still there, so we're still laughing and we're still having a good time. So it's fun for the whole family, and which is what you're trying to accomplish when you're making these movies. Finally, we got the right Mandarin, the way that it was supposed to be done. And
We
I
got
love that they took shots at Iron Man 3 for it.
yeah.
And the way that they turned that around, that whole complex with the actor. And this is a guy I did not expect to be in this movie. And he was hysterical. Like, all his scenes were great. But
Even Brie
I,
was like in the theater. I had to explain to her. I was like, you probably don't remember. It was so long ago.
yeah.
Do you remember
Well, I
him?
mean,
She's like,
not a lot of people don't even remember Iron Man 3 because
yeah.
it was also something the MCU kind of like was like, oh, this kind of never really happened until we saw like a couple of like little tidbits. Because remember, Iron Man 3 comes out before Avengers 2, Age of Ultron, and they don't reference that at all in Avengers 2. Like in Avengers 2, he literally, remember, Iron Man 3, he blows up his suits,
Doesn't
right?
he mention
And
it? He
then
doesn't mention the suits at all.
no, he literally starts the scene of Avengers 2 flying into the thing. You know, like he did, they don't mention Iron Man 3 like to the slightest in what you call it in Avengers Age of
Age of
Ultron, like
Ultron.
at
Yeah.
all. So it was, yeah. So you were telling Bree what?
I was explaining to her who the character was, and she started to kind of remember, but whenever I showed her what he looked like, she's like, "Oh no, I have no idea who that is."
Yeah.
But real quick, talking because you were talking about Katie, this might have to be a future video, right? But Kate, we have to have a talk about Katie, Lewis, and then what's the other one? And Ned.
Hmm.
Like so,
Oh,
Lewis
side
from
character wise,
yeah,
yeah,
like the side characters. I've like
yeah. The sidekick characters essentially.
I kind of want to see them meet up together one day. Just be like, oh, what's your? It's like, oh, your friend does this. Yeah, my
Yeah,
friend does this. What about your
yeah.
friend? Like, have you guys
It. I
ever
mean,
like? It'd be a funny
yeah.
conversation between the two.
It'd be a good one. It'd be a good one. Yeah. So getting a proper Mandarin and the way that he's supposed to be and the character that people know were like from the comics is such a good way to like pretty much retcon the character to be like, listen, Iron Man 3, it happened, we made mistakes, but here's our way of fixing it. And I think they did a really good job at fixing it because now you have the 10 ring organization, which is it was mentioned in Iron Man 3, and now, we'll talk about later basically what happens, but you have an organization now that can pretty much you can act as doing many things for the universe, and you always need like characters, and you always need those organizations because those really do make good TV shows. Like they could be in any TV show right now, and if you wanted to do a proper, Iron Fist, maybe you could fix that.
Yeah, as
Listen,
soon as I saw
Marvel.
it, I'm not gonna like the bus scene.
Yeah,
As soon as I saw that, I was like, oh my god, redo Iron do
yeah.
Iron Fist again,
Yeah.
please.
Iron Fist needs to be redone. I mean, basically, you could. This is like I'm not saying this is because Shang-Chi and Iron Fist have very similar style. Like it's a very similar storyline, but like they have enough differences because Danny actually becomes Luke Cage's best friend
Yeah.
and all that stuff. So like, but there's enough differences to where you could. But the fighting, the choreography should be the same, and I think uh the biggest issue with Iron Fist, and I don't want to make this an Iron Fist show, but the biggest issue with Iron Fist was choreography. Like, even if you have a bad story, like you got to at least be give us great fighting scenes of a character who knows how to fight. Like, you know what I mean, we can't just have terrible fighting scenes. So that was that whole thing on Iron Fist. But back to this, pretty much. I mean,
Mandarin
everything.
was a
Yeah,
badass, by the way.
a complete
I
badass.
loved that character so much to the point where it's just like you kind of forget. It made me kind of forget that he was a conqueror, right? Like he was
Yeah.
like his presence, like his demeanor and everything like that. How calm he is. It just seems like, oh, this guy is just like he's all about business.
Mhm.
And then you see the path of destruction he leaves, and you're just like,
Mhm.
okay, I got to remember that
Yeah.
he's not the best dude.
Yeah.
like
No, and he wasn't. And
yeah.
Tony Wade played in him. He's great. If you
Oh
guys don't
wow.
like Tony Wade's just the man. He's so good in everything he plays,
The
in my
dance with
opinion.
the dance
Again,
with the wife, his
oh,
wife,
listen,
like
that fight scene was amazing.
it was
Just like because
beautiful.
it
It was
looked
so
like,
beautiful.
yeah, it literally looked like they were dancing. Like, you know what I mean? And it just to have all that, like, it really shows you kung fu like in that light, which like I said, for me, when you can showcase kung fu in that style of just seeing so many different styles of kung fu, and I like you already had me like because at that scene, right, I was getting goosebumps.
Yeah.
Like I was literally like, oh my, like it was so good, just the way that their movement was, the way that the mother, like the way they were flowing together and stuff like that. And it's just like, obviously you're gonna fall in love. Like there was
You
no
see
way
it.
he wasn't
It's
gonna
so
fall in
good.
love
It's
out of
so good.
that.
I like
Yeah.
the cut scenes of like she's like literally fighting him, and then he's
Mhm.
looking up and he's like,
Yeah.
wow.
He's like, damn.
He's getting
Like I'm
thrown
supposed to be
across and
this
stuff.
all
He's like,
powerful.
whoa.
Yeah. He's like, I'm supposed to be this all powerful dude, and then you got like she's literally not using anything and
yeah.
just whooping. So just having that, and I mean also the 10 rings. I need to bring that up too because what a great way if you're going to change the way that it is. What a great way to make that difference with the wristband. Like
Yeah.
I thought that was such a dope idea, and like that's not the way it is in the comics, but because it was such a dope idea, it's so cool. Like you know what I mean. And I those are the type of changes I like. Like that works because look at all the cool scenes we got from it. The way that he was like shooting them, the way that he was like moving them around. Oh, it was one of the coolest things because it looked so clean also. Like it
You
just
can
looked
kind of
like
tell,
it
like,
flowed so well.
yeah, you can kind of tell that he look like you would have to keep track of how many he shot
Mhm.
because whenever he like all the different moves that he did with it, like whenever he
Yeah.
launches himself up, and even to the fact where like closely in the movie we'll get to that point, but when
Yeah.
he's falling, he shoots them both out,
Yeah.
and he has to take the fall. He's just like, well, I don't
Yeah.
have them on me right now, so
Mhm.
he always seemed like he's like, okay, I'm in the air, right? I have two. I shoot one. I have to save this one to break my fall. And like
Yeah.
it was just really cool how easily he flowed through it. And the rings itself look badass. I wish I could
Yeah.
pull that look off. I'd wear rings all the time, man. It
You
looks
could
so.
do it. You could do it.
It's freaking rolled up sleeves. Him walking around. I'm like, dude, this guy is
Yeah.
badass. This is so
Also,
cool.
yeah, and the clattering of them, right? Because like
Yeah.
it didn't like just those little things that you always knew that he had it on him, right? So it wasn't like some oh he doesn't have this thing. It was like clink clink, like you were just like oh man, this dude does have the rings on him. Let me like relax, like you know what I mean. Let me chill
So I'm
out.
saying he just walked
So,
in with his hands in his pockets, and you just looked at the
yeah,
wrist, and everybody's like, I mean, in the
uh,
first, in the beginning,
mhm,
when they're explaining who he was, one
yeah,
of the first wars that he goes up to, and you see him like you see his
yeah,
armies on the horse. It cuts to that army guy in the front, and he
mhm,
takes a deep breath. He's
yeah.
like he knew, he knew.
He
He's
knew,
just
yeah,
like, man, I'm
he
about to
knew.
get my ass kicked.
Yeah, for no like, you know, there's just at that point you just give up. You know what
Yeah,
I mean? So a lot of people like you know what he has. Like you know you guys can't handle that. So
yeah,
what's the point at that point? But yeah, so they did so many good things. The bus scene. I mean, let's talk about the bus scene.
yeah,
And
man.
this is one of the reasons again, and I listen, do what you want to do, but I watched the trailers after I watched the movie. And I would have I don't want I was happy to see for the first time the bus scene when I watched the movie and not on a trailer
I didn't
because I
watch. I did the same thing. The only thing I remember seeing from the trailer, like I didn't even watch the whole trailer.
mhm,
The only thing I remember is what's his name? Razor Fist. Like the slow
mhm,
motion of like the first swing, and he's like bending backwards and
yeah,
dodging it. That's the only thing I remember. But the bus scene was probably one of my favorite moments.
yeah, and that's why, like I said, I just suggest people to try it. If it doesn't work for you, if you can't do it, fine. But being able to not see those scenes and then seeing them for the first time in the theater, like, and not being like, oh, that was in the trailer, like, you know what I mean? It's such a good
Big
feel,
feeling, yeah.
such a good feeling to me. Like, so watching that bus scene and just watching how it literally clicks for him, like, in like he's just like, what, what? I need that pendant, and he's like, no, and then he's like, what does he look like he can fight? And then he just like pat pat, and you're
Yeah.
like, oh,
Even Kate, but the look that Katie gives him, like,
I know,
bro, you are literally gonna get your ass kicked. Like, why?
yeah.
Because he hits him.
And and
She's just
and
like,
they set that up perfectly
yeah.
because remember, their first story
Was her
is
protecting
was
him.
her protecting them by
Yeah.
singing, you know, Hotel California. So that was great. And then the vlogger, which
Shout
was
out to him,
perfect.
bro.
He is also in Spider-Man: Homecoming. If you all remember,
That's
he's
what
the
I
street
thought. I was
vendor.
just like, oh
Yeah,
wait,
and he's
what?
like, do a flip. It's the same dude. It's literally the same dude. And they do stuff like that. And like I said, the little things when you watch these movies enough and you notice people like that, like I just think it's awesome that Marvel brings those people back, like brings those characters back into the
So
movies
good, and him
because it's
like,
so funny.
yeah, that line of him saying, he's like, "Hey man, it's your boy. I used to do martial arts as a kid, so I'm
Yeah.
gonna try to rate this fight for you." I was like, "Wow."
Like, no, you shouldn't do that, man. You don't know anything that's going on in this fight. So it's really yeah, that bus scene was really well done. Like from the way that he was fighting, the way that he used the bus like as the protection, and then the fact when they start cutting when Razor Fist cuts the middle part, and then he's like when I give you the signal, like go, and then like he's just holding him off. But man, that bus scene was so clean, so well done. It looked good, even if it was a CGI bus. You could tell some of the parts. but still, like you can't do that in a real bus, so you need to do a
Yeah, well,
CGI
yeah.
bus.
I mean, I
Like,
saw afterwards that all the backstage clips are floating
mhm,
around of him do like there's one on TikTok that I saw, and it's the scene that he's on top of the bus,
mhm,
slides on the front of it, and then hits the side, and he's like, open the door.
yeah,
So
yeah,
seeing all that come to life, it was really
mhm,
cool. But also when he first enters the bus, when they first both get on the bus, I don't
mhm,
notice any of the other guys, but my eyes locked directly onto Razor Fist in the back of the
yeah,
bus. Like I saw
yeah,
him sitting there with the hood, and I was like,
yeah,
looking, I was like, dude, this guy has a vest on. Like he's
yeah,
ready to go. I was like, and I leaned over to Bree. I was like, I was like, you can already tell this guy's coming with it. But when all the other guys stand up, I was like,
yeah.
oh wait, never mind.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah. Like I didn't see those guys, but
uh,
it so well done. Razor Fist obviously being a reference to the comic also, which is like I said, always cool when they do stuff like that. It just feels right when you bring those characters in. And he was a good character also. He was a good little like, mid tier, or I would call it low tier boss for him because he kind of like was just enough of a good fight for it to make a really good scene. And I thought that scene was done well. The choreography to that scene was amazing.
his chess
Uh,
piece kept confusing me though, because every time I looked at it, I would think of Hydra, and
yeah,
I know it's the ten
yeah,
rings
it's the
logo,
Ten
like
Ring
kind of
symbol.
like it being darkened a little bit. It kind of, I
Hmm.
guess because we've seen
The
Hydra
Hydra
so
symbol
much,
somewhere. Yeah.
like I'm just like, is that Hydra? I was like, no, why would that
No,
be?
no. Hydra is
So
not there.
yeah.
Hydra is gone. Wink. But so yeah, then the scene when they get to one of my just such a good scene when they get to the fight club and like he gets tricked to going into the fight club and then you see Wong and Abomination fighting and just seeing Wong is always is always a pleasure to
Oh,
me because Wong is such a good
he's
character.
literally because he's probably my
Yeah.
favorite. Like as soon as I think I said it last episode too for
Yesterday, yeah.
the what if I was like he has to show up. Like I want
Hmm.
him to be in this movie. And
Yeah.
yeah, that scene where he walks up and he's like, that hurt. He's like, you want
Yeah.
to see what it feels like? And he opens the
Yeah.
portal. Oh
Yeah.
man.
So good. So good. And we saw Abomination for the first time since The Incredible Hulk, which was 2008. So this is a mutated version of of Abomination, which is a replica to what happens to him in the comic books, also because he grows that fin thing.
Hmm.
But we didn't hear them talk or anything like that, or at least it wasn't like legible, which means he's probably like gone. But Tim Roth was the person who played Abomination, and he's the person who was in this and he's supposed to be in She-Hulk. So we're probably going to see
Oh,
Abomination
yeah, I
again.
was thinking that whenever he said, whenever Wong goes back through the portal after winning, and
Hmm.
he's like, see, this is why, like, he was talking about his training, and then whenever he climbs through, he's like, oh, he's training, he's like helping him fight. So I'm assuming we're
Yeah.
gonna see him a lot more. So
Yeah, well, he's confirmed for She-Hulk, and so
okay,
is Mark Ruffalo. So we will talk about Mark Ruffalo a little bit later.
yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, just that scene itself was funny, and then he finally meets his sister, and that was a, a crazy fight because she was working him. Then the best thing about it is after that fight happens, and Katie is like comes in with a whole bunch of
Oh, the
money,
cash,
and he's
yeah.
like, where'd you get all that money? And he's like, you bet against me. And their relationship's so good, like
And
I
she
said
comes
before.
into, oh, you could tell Katie was a fan from the beginning. She's like,
Yeah.
wow, like, hey, big fan, badass, blah blah blah. And then whenever they have that moment together too,
Mhm.
and she's like, my father never let me fight or whatever, and I decide, and she's like, so you started your own fight ring
Yeah.
when you were 16, and she's like,
Mhm.
well, I said, like, if my father has an empire, I want my own empire. She's
Yeah.
like,
Like if
damn
he
right.
wouldn't let me into
Like,
my
she's like,
empire,
hell yeah.
like I'll just build my own.
Yeah.
So she uh completely badass. I
Oh.
mean, it's just and then that fight scene, that action scene was so dope. Like when he goes, I literally was like going crazy when he rushes to go save Katie from the bamboo falling,
Mm-hmm.
and the way that he flowed like through that, it was amazing. Like I'm talking about, like I was literally like, I was like, oh shit, like in the movie theater, like because it was so clean the way he flowed through everything, and even though they used a little bit of CGI, like it was enough, like I said, that camera trick where you show enough of the face that it doesn't feel like you're watching CGI anymore, right? So it feels like you're just blended into the character. And then it's also like he can do it, and it's perfect because it's like this is enough for a human to do, but it still feels very superhero-ish.
Well, you
And
see
I
him in the
love when they
fight or
do that.
flight state too, because he's fighting,
Yeah,
and then as soon as she says help and she's hanging off,
yeah,
like it's just like everything becomes one. It's like get out of my way, because that first
exactly.
guard that comes up, which, or no, I think he's the second guard. Which I thought about your theory there. The
I
sec,
told you the
yeah.
second guy, right?
So like he's fighting the first guy, help. He
Mm-hmm.
books it, and the second
Yeah.
guy that comes up gets one tap to the face.
I'm telling you, it's a fair theory for the. If people are wondering what this theory is, I've said it in one episode before, but I'll say it again. The second person in every Marvel movie gets it the worst. It's always the second enemy, whoever it is. If and you can, it's pretty much every fight scene. That second person gets it the worst. If you think about this fight scene from the beginning with the 10 rings when he runs up, the first person didn't get it that bad, but remember the second person, he like flew him through the with the 10 rings. So it's like it's always the second person that gets it the worst. So check just be mindful for it. Look at it and then you tell me if I'm right. But I'm telling you, most of the second people get it the worst.
Oh,
My
it's
brother and
so
I figured
funny.
it out.
Uh,
So yeah, she was like that was great. And then when Jay Ling comes to help, I thought that was dope. And then we see Death Dealer for the first time. Well, not the first time because we saw him in the training videos and stuff like that. So that was such a dope fight too. And then Mandarin comes and is like, "Yo, all right, y'all need to stop this." And he's like, "I told my men, even if they tried to kill you, they wouldn't. I'm glad to see that I was successful." Like that, like their relationship too was crazy. And then I felt like it took. I like that plot twist that they used because I'm not gonna lie, for a little bit I believed him. Like when they go back to the base and he's like, "Oh, your mother is the one who's trying to save me, like is telling me to save her." And then I was like, you know what? He might not be lying.
yeah,
Like, you
that's
know
what
what I mean?
I
So,
felt it too. Yeah, yeah.
mhm,
I was like, oh, okay, wait, they're gonna try to bring the family back. Like, I was,
yeah,
yeah, I felt the same thing. Um, it was definitely a weird moment, and the
yeah.
animation of the
Oh,
when he
when
goes
he
to
puts
explain,
the
he's like, what are
pendant in,
these? And he
yeah,
puts the pendants in the eyes. Uh
yeah,
oh.
yeah. I'm good. I'm
Okay,
here.
you're
I'm here.
good. So whenever he puts the pendants in the eyes and the water starts flowing up and comes up, and you see the bamboo, which I want to say in the beginning when they're driving through the forest before he meets the wife,
Yeah,
that bamboo closing was one of the coolest things.
yeah.
I love mazes, and like I like that they change up, and that was a really cool idea to do.
Hmm.
Especially at just watching it, everything close and change above and seeing how it works. I was like, man, this is such an awesome idea. I love this so much. But
Yeah,
yeah, that the animation in the fantasy of it, like the water and leading up to the gate, I thought it
yeah.
was
So
fantastic. One of my
cool.
favorite things. Yeah.
It looked, and again, that's one of the things about this. Is the CGI looked so good. It was very clean. It didn't seem like they tried to cheat it with like a lot of dark scenes. So you saw this a lot in the light because the where they go is just beautiful. Like you see all the light and you see everything looking good. So they didn't try to cheat the CGI, which is something I always admire. Like because I know it's hard to try to make this thing that we know is fake look real, and the realer you can make it look, or the more real you can make it look, is so cool to me. So I think now that we've gotten to a point in technology now that you can literally just de-age characters, you can make things look exactly like they're really happening, even though, like, I mean, you take this back to when we were watching this stuff in '08, where characters were like, you could see, you noticed every time there was a CGI moment, and now we're going to the point where you can tell, but it's getting to that point where it's really close to looking like real life, and
Mm-hmm.
it's a scary but also really cool thing. So, yeah, so all that stuff, yeah, was dope. And then when they get to the village, aka, also my other theory is that their mom is an airbender. So I'm just gonna put it
That's what I
out
thought
there.
too. I did think in that first opening scene, I was like, man, they could have made that. This showed me that Avatar could be a
Oh,
real
listen,
life
listen.
thing.
Again, I'm not gonna talk about this because I get really upset about the Avatar movie. But this could have happened properly, and we're seeing all the ways that this could have happened properly.
Yep.
But I'm not going to get into that because I could talk for that. I could talk about that for hours, and I'm not going to do it. So yeah, so they finally get to the village, and I thought it was super cool that they showed his aunt, and they showed them like ready to just having that civilization back there and what their real goal was behind, and once she started explaining everything, I was like, okay, well, Mandarin's a liar. I don't know why I believed him in the first place. Like, what I mean? It wasn't his fault completely because he was being led on, but the fact that,
I
he
told Bree
couldn't
too. I
accept
was
it.
like, I feel bad for Mandarin because to be honest, if I was in the same situation,
Oh,
right? If
yes.
Bree wasn't around and I start hearing her voice and she's like, "Hey, I'm trapped," I'd believe it too. I'd be doing
Mhm.
the same thing.
Absolutely. And I
So
mean it's a good way to make him because like he said, she made him change his life. The way that he was
yeah,
became different because of her. Like he literally changed for her. And then they showed you, listen, sometimes people hold a vendetta and hold a grudge, and when the goons come, and and let's give credit to, because she whoops their ass without any powers, by the way, and I'm talking about, it was a lot. The fact that she was like, no one else was standing, like it took it all out of her, but she also whooped at least 30 to 40 men by herself. So I mean, you know what I mean?
it's
And
crazy.
it was crazy, and you could also see the pain that Mandarin came in with once he was like, "Damn, like I tried to change and I couldn't, and like look what happened. Like I changed." And he's gonna
As
have
soon
that
as I let my
mindset
guard
because he's
down,
been
yeah,
a conqueror. Like,
yeah.
you know what I mean? He's been a conqueror, and he's never been in that situation because he's always had the rings. And you can tell he was dealing with a very internal thing where it was just like, yeah, if I had the rings on, I would have, like, this would have never happened because I would have made it home quicker or whatever the case may be,
Well,
or it would have never even,
they would
yeah.
know not to mess with him, like
Hmm.
just to come up that mountain at all. They'd be like, "I'm not going up there." Like,
Well,
forget
they
that.
know, they still know because
Yeah.
they still got their ass whooped.
Yeah,
Like, you
I
know
was
what
gonna
I
say
mean?
too. Brie also brought up a very good point because whenever we were talking about that he was blinded by love, the fact that we got the what if episode on Strange, in that
Yeah.
moment where they talk about it, they're like, "Hey, love
Hmm.
does a really crazy like it messes you up. It'll
Yeah.
mess up your mind and it'll blind you." And it just
Hmm.
like the fact that we got that episode right before this movie, and it's just kind
Yeah.
of like it just kind of adds on to it.
But
It
yeah,
was
and that's a cool thing that, the people who are watching all the content get. Like, you get that feeling of those cool moments, because that's another thing, because remember, their civilization wasn't even in this dimension, which is another thing like that's hinting towards, the multiverse and stuff like this, because they weren't even in the same universe. Like, you know what I mean? It
yeah,
was a completely different universe that they were in compared to like where Earth is. So that in itself is just giving people the time and preparing everyone. Hey, listen, this multiverse thing is real, and you need to prepare for it as much as you can, because some crazy things are coming out, and we saw what came out once that gate was opened.
yeah.
So that whole fight scene, all of that was absolutely gorgeous. The dragon, the fight with Mandarin and Shang-Chi, all of that was just, that third act was absolutely phenomenal. Like, it was, and then the ending of it, oh my god. The way he ends it, I mean, I literally wanted to get up into the theater and start screaming, because the dance, the poetry in
Yeah.
motion when he was coming down to do this final attack. Like, I was watching an anime in real life. Like, that is what like real life anime should be. Exactly what that movie was. Because when he was doing all that stuff in the air, and I was like, I'm watching an anime. Like, there's no, like, this is, I've never thought in a million years I would see what I'm watching right now, because like it's just something I never thought would be so popular to a point where, because Shang-Chi is really a low tier character as far as the comics go. Like, people know about him, but they don't know about him. And to see him like get this light, like, you know what I mean, it's
Yeah.
just so cool to me. That, and it proves what I was saying this whole time, that it's not about the characters, about who's writing it or who's directing or whoever's in charge of these characters, because you can make bad characters good. And it's a proven fact. If it's done right, people won't care about the character's name itself. Obviously, it would probably, like, revenue wise, but people won't care about the character if you just make good movies. And that's what Marvel does really well, and that's what I was been saying about DC, and that's what they need to do. Just make good movies, people will show up. And I feel like this is one of those movies where, especially word of mouth now, is going to be like, yo, this movie was fire. Y'all need to go see it.
Yep.
And I feel like a bunch of people are going to go watch it because they're going to be like, well, I don't know what to expect, because I heard that a lot. A lot of people that I know who've watched the movie already have been like, I didn't know what to expect to going in. And I was like, that's perfect. Because when you don't know what to expect, you're
You're gonna
watching the
enjoy
movie
it.
for
Yeah.
what it is.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I did like. Did you think that he was gonna put on the ring whenever he like starts flowing
mhm.
with the rings and stuff? I didn't think about the like basically the Kamehameha blast that he
Yeah.
does. I thought like it was gonna be a moment where he's floating and as soon as he has it on, I
Yeah.
was like, oh, this is like it's just gonna lock on his arm
Yeah.
and we're gonna get that like oh shit moment. But
No, I thought it was cool because it was the same thing his mom did.
yeah,
And
exactly.
that's why he didn't put it on. So a part of me was like he might put him on, and then but honestly I'm glad he didn't, because then the moment when when his dad gives him the rings is a better moment, because then he
Yeah.
puts it like he physically gives it to, because remember one of the lines he said, and that's what made that scene so cool, was because it was like one of the lines he said was basically like, I need to make sure you're strong enough for these, like worthy for these rings. So he basically made him worthy even as he was sacrificing himself. You know what I mean? So I thought that was super dope that that the way the transition of the giving him the rings went while he was sacrificing himself.
Also, on a note, some of those monsters, man, look very scary. I was like, holy crap,
Oh,
these are the
yeah.
dragon
I'm
that
not
comes
fighting
out of
any
that.
of
I
them.
was just like,
Yeah.
ugh. Yeah,
Yeah, I
but
ain't fighting any of those.
before we get close to wrapping up, two of my favorite Mandarin scenes happened in this last act, and
Mhm.
one was a camera shot. So the camera shot whenever he tells him like, hey, if mom was alive, like what makes
Mhm.
you think she would want you? And
Yeah.
when he gets angry and he pushes it, like
Yeah.
blows him into the water. The rings, like when you see the water like push up and then you see the rings come back to him,
Yeah.
that is a cool like
It's
film
so
moment. Him
dope.
standing there, I was like, oh man. And then
Like you just
also, like I said, he's probably my favorite villain. Like he's just a
so
smooth
good.
badass. And
Yeah.
whenever he first enters the village, and he is like, you locked my wife out of the gates
Mhm.
and all this other stuff. And the old man says, he's like, no, we were blocking you because your
Yeah.
past is going to destroy the village. And whenever he looks at him, he's like, watch how you talk to me, young man. I was like,
Yeah.
oh man.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that was such a good moment,
Yeah.
like such a good dialogue
Because even
line,
him,
because you're
he's just
like,
like,
wait a
he's like,
second, he is.
I lived centuries of like
Yeah, he's
centuries and
like,
centuries. I was like, oh
and
my
it was such
god,
a cool way to play it off, because it's like, yeah, he is way younger than
yeah,
him, like, you know what I mean?
yeah. One of my
That was so
favorite
cool.
lines when he looks at him, he's like, watch how you talk to me, young man. I was like, oh
Yeah.
shoot.
Yeah, just phenomenal. Like,
Ugh.
and like I said, just after the atrocity of of what Iron Man 3 was, to get a real Mandarin and to get the character really the way that we wanted him to be, I thought this was the perfect way. And like I said, Tony Way was just absolutely phenomenal in playing in portraying the role. So I'm happy that we've got this. That was the Mandarin we got now. It took us a little longer than I wanted it to, but that the like I said earlier, the playing it off, the way that they made it work, and the way that they added Trevor, the actor, and just made it all work together, it's perfect now. So like I'll take it. I'm not gonna complain that, because now I mean we got what we wanted, right?
Yeah.
So
Also, the
can't.
people that thought, because there was people in my theater, Bree included, when they showed the scene of Trevor on the ground.
Mhm.
Right. If you really thought that man was dead,
Yeah.
I was like, as soon as I saw him and they had the sad music,
He's
I'm
not
like,
dead.
I'm not buying this.
Yeah,
And
no.
when he wakes up, he's like, it's
I'm
acting,
putting
mate.
on a.
He's like,
He's like, I'm putting on a performance. Like,
he's like, now get down here.
yeah, and then
The thing gets on its back.
yeah,
It's so
it
good.
was, yeah, the like I said, everything about that movie I enjoyed. If I literally I would be nitpicking if I was looking for something wrong. We also need to talk about the end credit scenes,
Oh, yes.
which was the mid credit. So if you guys don't know, there's two credit scenes. So there's a mid credit scene and an end credit scene. The mid credit scene is probably the most important of the bunch. But at the end of the movie, we see them telling this epic story to their friends, and then the friends don't believe any of it. And then Wong comes through the portal, and everyone's face in the restaurant was priceless to me, because everyone's looking like this is real magic.
Well,
Like,
when did this? What, that was the thing. So whenever it says present day, did it mean present day? Or was this
Yeah.
before Infinity War?
No, because they
Or
talked
and
about Endgame.
oh, they
Because
did.
you remember in that conversation earlier when they were talking to and they were like, "Well, this is before I realized that half the universe could be wiped away at any point." So
Yeah.
Endgame had already happened. It's present
Oh,
day.
okay, okay. Because
This
I
is
was
yeah.
like thinking, I was like, they're so shocked with magic and like all
Yeah,
this
but
crap just happened. But
it's
I
still
feel
though,
like
like
it's
it's
whenever it's
until
like
you
in your
see it.
presence. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it's
exactly.
like
That's
till
a
you see
yeah,
it,
yeah,
like you're gonna be like, "Oh yeah, we got blimped away," but like I was just gone for a little bit. But
yeah, yeah.
like
Now I'm here.
now,
Yeah,
you probably they probably didn't experience any of that stuff. Like any of the like they probably saw it on TV, but
yeah,
it's still one of those things that, oh yeah, I saw it on TV, but now like I'm actually seeing a wizard
yeah.
or a sorcerer coming through this like through a portal. Like you know what I mean? Like through
Shang-Chi
yeah.
present here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So good. He's like here, yeah. And then they were like, yeah, well, we're gonna leave now. I'll text you, like all
yeah.
that.
And they walk
But
through the.
yeah, but then we see they're trying to figure out where the ring's origins come from, and then we see two characters that we haven't seen in a while because it's been a while. So we see Bruce Banner as Bruce Banner,
Mm-hmm.
which is key, people, because if you remember in Endgame, we saw him as Hulk, and he was permanently stuck, not permanently stuck, but stuck by choice as Hulk, and now he was not. So there's going to be some questions to be answered there. And then we see Captain Marvel, who obviously is the space,
And she got
their
a
space
call too.
person.
She got a call. She's like, I
Yeah, she
have
got a
to take care
call.
of this. And I
Listen,
was like,
she got a call, and I already know. Okay, it's we're getting ready for that movie soon too. So TV show's about to come out next year. So not her TV show, but I think they set up three plot points there, which I think was very interesting. We want to know why Smart Hulk is no longer Hulk,
mm-hmm.
like why Bruce Banner is back, and then we want to know what Captain Marvel was doing. Wong trying to figure out what the rings are about and what the origin and the beacon is. So that's already a setup for Shang-Chi too. So whenever that wants to come out, we'll be ready. You know what I mean? Or New Avengers. There's just a bunch of stuff, and then Wong basically telling them, "Hey, your life is completely changed. Like this is now that you've dealt with this, you have to realize that everything from this point out is going to get crazy. And welcome to the club, pretty much."
Well,
So,
I did like before he left. He's like, "Welcome to the
mhm.
circus show, guys." Like,
Yeah, welcome to.
he's just like so calm and
Mhm.
everything, and he's like, "This is gonna be like this is nuts." And he's just like,
And the other key thing, his arm is still messed up from when he snapped. So he snapped his finger with
"Oh
the
yeah, with
when he
the
brought
yep."
everybody back. He's still in a sling, and we don't know exactly how much time has gone past since Endgame.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't told us that yet. I'm sure we'll figure it out, but it might be a good amount of time. So all three of those were awesome, and then the way they ended perfect when he was like, everyone go
Yeah,
home,
you should
get
get
some
some
rest,
rest.
and then he was like, or, and then
She's
they're
like,
singing karaoke,
it's so
and it's like perfect. It's so perfect, perfect way to end it. Perfect way
uh,
to end that scene. And then the second one, we see Zhang Li taking over the 10 rings, which kind of was like foreshadowing, and I'm interested to see what that story brings, because I want to know what she's going to do with it, and if we're going to see them later, which we probably will. So those were the end credit scenes, and definitely stick around with any Marvel movie. I don't even feel like I have to say that anymore, but even yesterday I saw people walking out before the credits were over or the mid-credit scene, and then just missed a big chunk of the movie, like a big chunk of what's going to happen next, and then they're going to be upset that they left early. So
yep.
please do not leave any Marvel movie. Stay until the mid-credit, or just stay there. If you don't, at least look up if the movie has it one or not, which is what I like to do before I go into the movie. You check, you can type it in. Does this have an end credit scene? They will tell you before they're going to spoil it. They go, yes, and then you stay. That's it. Also, to give some props to the people who worked hard on that movie, also. My dream has always to been one of those people who are on those. So if my name is on there and you're one of my friends and I worked on the movie, you better stay.
Oh yeah.
so so yeah, we're gonna wrap it up the same way we always do. Chris, what was your favorite part?
Man, so
There's too
many.
many.
There's way
There's
too
too
many.
many.
I will have to say that moment of Shang and his dad and Mandarin fighting.
Hmm.
in before they get to the door. That
Yeah.
whole moment of him like letting him give him respect to his wife.
Yeah.
First off, that moment of him just standing there
Hmm.
and he's says, "Okay, I got to go do my thing." Does his
Hmm.
thing, and up to that point where he pushes him into the water and gets the rings back, probably my
Yeah.
favorite scene.
Yeah.
So, and then for comedy wise, that nothing beats Wong at the end when
Yeah.
he's just like, "Or," and she goes,
Yeah.
and they're all three
Yeah.
singing, and you could tell he's just like vibing into it. I love
Yeah.
Wong so much.
Yeah. Such a good character. I mean, my favorite, man, this one's tough.
It's tough. Or
But
the bus scene. The bus scene is actually up there for me too.
yeah,
That comes in second,
me,
probably.
as like I said, as a person who loves kung fu, the bus scene had to be my favorite because it's just the way that they use the martial arts to just flow through like certain areas where he's using the bus, the environment, like to me that's so cool. And I could watch that bus scene literally every day. Like just every minute of the day, just watching that bus scene. So
And when the camera
I'm gonna
comes
have to
out too,
say,
and you see them fight. I love those scenes whenever they show
I
the
know.
outside and you're watching through the window. I'm like, oh,
And now that you bring that up, people, directors, future directors, listen. That's watch this movie, and that's how you use slow motion. Do not do the stuff that Zack Snyder does to where it depreciates the slow motion. This movie was perfect because how many slow motion scenes were there? There was three, and that was it. And that's all you needed. And all three of those we remember vividly because you died. They were cool. Like when he backs away and then you see the pendant going,
mm-hmm.
that was cool. You know why? Because we didn't overuse slow motion. So stop use slow motion very subjectively, use it a few times so we can go, oh, and not go, I'm tired of seeing slow motion. So I'm just gonna put that out there for future people, for future directors. And yeah, I'm not saying you don't have to listen to me because who am I? But just I'm just saying. But yeah, we're gonna wrap it up. I think that's pretty much all we have for today, guys. We are doing a mouse giveaway at 100 subs, so please sub, tell a friend that you like the content, all that good stuff. Like, subscribe, do all that stuff so we can help. We will see you guys next Tuesday for the LPF show, and then after that, we'll be doing. You'll see the next LPF debrief on Thursday because we'll be doing What If episode 4. So 5, right? Yeah, 5.
Yes,
So
five.
whatever episode it is. But we'll see you guys next week. Thank you guys for joining us. Thank you for tuning in. And with that being said, Fire Team out.